Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2019-2, the Harlow Hat, Troubleshooting Brioche. I'm currently teaching a class at the Hillsboro Yarn Shop on the Harlow Hat. That's a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and it's a two-color brioche hat. Andrea has numerous videos on her YouTube channel. Go check them out. And she teaches how to cast on for brioche, set up for brioche, how to do the different brioche stitches and different brioche decreases. And you should check those all out. I'm taping this episode to talk about troubleshooting some problems you may have with two-color brioche as you go along, and I'm going to show you how to fix them and maybe avoid them. One thing I want to mention about brioche is that it's really important to be able to see your stitches and to understand what's going on. And I ran across this quote from Patty Lyons. She's a wonderful knitting teacher, and she's my hero and idol. And she had this on Instagram this week, and she says, matching is memorizing, and seeing is learning. So it's wonderful if you can follow instructions and just go along and follow a pattern. That's perfectly fine. But you also need to be able to see your knitting and to see what's going on so you can catch mistakes and fix them, either kind of as they're happening or very quickly after they happen. So that's what I'm hoping to show you today. Now this is small version of the Harlow hat that I did with chunky yarn for demonstration purposes, and I want to point some things out about brioche knitting. My main color is the white and my contrasting color is the blue, and you'll see on this side, and this is the outside in the round, I have stripes going up that are knit stitches in my main color. In between those are a kind of a rib, and it's in the alternate color and in the contrasting color, and they have kind of this sort of chevron look to them. Okay, if you turn the hat inside out, you will see that on the other side you have something similar going on, but in reverse. So on this side you have columns of contrasting color knit stitches, and it's a beautiful unbroken column of knit stitches with a contrasting kind of a chevron stitch effect on the back. So let's turn this right side out again, and one important thing to see is to be able to recognize when you're looking at the right side and when you're looking at the wrong side, because you always want to be set up when you're knitting this hat in the round. I really do want to get this so my yarn's in the right place. Okay. Yes, we're back. Okay. You want to be able to recognize when you're on your right side and when you're on your wrong side. So the right side, my main color is facing me. Okay. One other thing you want to notice in brioche, when the stitches are on your needle, you will have, this is my right side, my main color pillar of knit stitches, and at the very top there is a hood over the top. I believe Andrea Mowry calls this a honey over the top, that is a pair with that white stitch, that main color stitch in that column. Every one of these knit columns has a hood over the top. Every one of the contrasting color columns in between at this point has just a plain stitch at the top, a naked stitch. So this is what I'm looking at, and this is as I'm going into my next round of knitting. Okay, so if I just picked this up and I was thinking, oh holy heck, where was I? Where do I start? Was I on a contrasting color row or a main color row? Well, as I'm at the beginning of a round and I'm coming up to stitches, and I see there's a plain and a hooded or a honey pair plain honey, okay? The plain stitch, if I'm going to work that next, since it's plain, it's asking to have a hood be put over the top of it. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to bring the yarn to the front. I'm going to do the yarn over. And then what do I do next? Am I going to be burping or barking? Am I going to be doing a purl brioche stitch here or a knit brioche stitch? I know that I'm going to be doing a knit because this whole column of whites, and I'm using the white yarn, is knit. This is the knit side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knit or bark the honey and the stitch together. And so as I'm coming along, I continue doing this. Let me get this light color out of the way right now. Okay, there we go. Is that better? And then I knit those two together. Okay, and so what the pattern is I'm slipping and doing a yarn over and then knitting a stitch with its hat. Now pay attention to what's going on here. I'm coming up to a white stitch column, and this was supposed to have a hat on it, and it doesn't. So what happened? If you turn the work around to the back, if you look at the back here, there is a strand of blue that slipped off the needle, or maybe I never put it on, but I can go down to that strand of blue, I can drape it over my stitch now, and then I can keep going. So that's where the hood came from. It was that yarn that's stranded in the back, okay? Now one thing I will mention here too is when you're going to troubleshoot brioche, it's very, very important to have a crochet hook with you. And we'll get to that in a minute. But let's say, so this next one needs a drape, and then I need to knit. And let's say I go to drape this one and I get a little over enthusiastic and the hood on the next stitch fell off. See how that happened? I can just go ahead to the back again, pick up that strand that fell off, and I can go ahead and knit that again. Okay? All right, so let's say we go along this way for a while, and I am looking, I want to stop. And what I want to do is stop and look at my knitting and to see if everything appears to be going right with it. So let me just go ahead a little bit more here and knit. And let's see. I'm looking at my knitting now, and I feel like things look pretty good at this point. So I'm going to keep going along. Looking at all my stitches, and they look really pretty. I've got unbroken lines here of white stitches. A good thing to do occasionally is to look back at previous rows and see if there are any problems. You can just look around and make sure that you don't find any broken stitches. And all my white columns here look very, very nice. Okay. Awesome. Okay, now if every once in a while you want to go ahead and you want to look and turn your hat inside out, make sure you didn't make any mistakes along there. And actually, looking at this, I found a mistake. Can you see it? There's a column here. There's a problem there too. There are two columns here where the stitches are broken. Okay? And I'm going to show you what to do to fix that. So what you need to do is you need to move your stitches over and just slip them, and make sure you slip a single, a pair, a single, a pair, a single, a pair. A single, a pair, a single, and this is my column where I have a problem, okay? So what I'm going to do, it's a brave thing to do, is I'm going to take this blue stitch off the needle, and then I immediately want to pull my cord through because I don't want more stitches to fall off. And I'm going to take my crochet hook and I am just going to pull the stitches out until I get to before the mistake, okay? So here we go. And what you want to do too is when you find a problem, you're usually going to see it in a column of knit stitches. That's why you have to turn the hat, you know, inside out and outside in again to see those columns of knit stitches. And those are the stitches. It's easier to connect and pick up stitches if you work from the knit side, okay? So if you'll look at this, what you have is you've got, I'm going to pull this knit stitch out and I'll stick my hook in it so I can show you. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white ladders. Do you see those? And then in the back, and you can turn it over and even pull these out a little bit to help yourself. You've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it 4? Nope, it's just 3. 3 blue ladders. See those ladders? And they're in order that way. Okay. And what you want to do when you're going to pick up these stitches is I have a blue stitch on my hook. Right under the blue stitch, there are 2 ladders. I want to go over one white ladder and under the next white ladder. And I want to hook up the first blue ladder from the back. So let me make sure I can find that ladder. 1, 2, and that's at the top. So it's this one right here. This goober right there. So I want to take my hook and I go again over this white ladder, under that white ladder, and I hook the first blue ladder and I pull it under the second ladder and into my knit stitch, and voila. Okay. So then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to put my hook over the first white ladder, the next white ladder, and under the one after that. I'm going to find the next blue ladder in line, which is this one. I'm going to hook it and pull it through under the second ladder, over the first ladder, and through the through the stitch, the blue stitch. Okay. And so one more time, I am going to go over the white ladder, over the first ladder, under the second ladder, and I'm going to pull the blue through. And then I'm going to go over the ladder, under that ladder, over the first ladder, under the second ladder, and then I'm going to put both of those stitches up on my needle. That's a stitch and a hood up on the needle. And so I've got that column fixed. See that? And back up on the needle. Okay. I can do that one more time for you. And we can do it with this one here. Do you see how that lane's broken? Now the reason this happens is occasionally you may purl a stitch or burp a stitch instead of bark a stitch. You might purl it instead of when you should have knitted it, or knit it when you should have purled it. So I'm going to go here again and I'm going to work from this side of the knit column of stitches. I'm going to drop these stitches down and pull them out. And I'm going to have my white ladders in the front and my blue ladders in the back. And you can use your crochet hook to pull things out, okay? Make sure these stitches on the needle are still secured, because again, you don't want like a real fiasco. But you'll be fine. You can even put end caps on the needles if you want to. So I've got this time I've got 4 strands of white in the front, and I've got, there you go, 1, 2, there we go, 1, 2 strands in the back. Okay, I'm going to jump down one more, take one more stitch out, okay? And so here we go. So sometimes the yarn sticks to itself. So I'm going to go over the first white bar, under the second white bar, and I'm going to pull this ladder through. Hold on. Let me find my ladder. Okay. First bar, that's the second bar. So I'm going to go over the first bar and under the second bar, and I'm going to pull my blue ladder through. Where is my blue ladder? Okay, let me just double check. Go back here. I've got 1, 2, 3 ladders. So this is the one I want to pull through. This one here. Okay. So over one white, under the next white, and then pull the bottom ladder through. 1, 2, 3. That's the one. Pull it through and pull it through the stitch. Okay, so now I'm going over this white ladder, over this white ladder, over this white ladder, under this white ladder, and I'm pulling this one through. Dump, da-dump. Okay. And one more time, over this white ladder, under this white ladder, and pull this through. Bump, bump. Okay, and then I'm going to go under this white ladder and put both stitches up on my needle, and I'm back again where I started. A nice column of blue stitches and a blue stitch with a hood at the top. So that's how you would pick up dropped stitches or correct a mistake on the way down using your crochet hook. Now before you start working again, what you want to do is you want to turn your work right side out again. And then you're going to want to get back to where your working yarn is. So I'm going to move my stitches over. I was working with the white yarn, and I'm going to move them over in singles and pair, and single and pair, and single and pair, and single and pair, and single, and I believe that's where I left my yarn. Yep. Another way that I know that's where I left my yarn is because if you look here, I've got a single, which I just worked, of one color. The next one is the opposite color, and that is the one that I'm going to want to put a hood on, slip, and then, because these are all knit stitches, knit. So that's a quick look at how to troubleshoot some problems with brioche. And my next episode is going to be about I-cords, doing an I-cord bind off or applying an I-cord. That's for a different class, but if you want to stop by and check that out, that'd be great too. Thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.